Hi, I'm Bart Hanson, the owner and operator of CrushLivePoker.com. The following hand comes from our call-in show that we record at 4:45 p.m. Pacific Time every Monday. If you want to call in your hand, check out the phone number in the description.
Yes. Sorry, not trolling. I'm just calling from abroad, actually. I'm in
Okay.
London, England. Okay.
Okay, cool.
So I
You
play a one 2 pound game at the Empire in Leicester Square. That's about
I
$1.53,
know
I
it.
suppose, but we can
Yep, I know
run
I
through.
know Leicester Square and I know that casino. I actually did the World Series of Poker Europe broadcast in 2008 from
Oh,
there.
nice. Right.
So
Yeah.
one
So
two pound.
yeah,
Yep.
they run some like cash games there. Usually you get a good mix of like regulars plus tourists or people who are just drunk or whatever because
Mhm.
it's quite a touristy bar area as well.
Okay.
Anyway, I was 1-2. I had 350 in my stack at the time.
Okay.
I was middle position. There are two limpers before me,
Mhm.
and I had King Jack of Spades.
From mid position like
Usually,
MP1, something like that.
yeah, something like that.
Okay.
And usually people in this game go like 7 or 8 pounds normally pre-flop, but this game there were several people a bit deep, so I guess the standard is more like 10 pounds.
Okay.
So I went so I went 15.
So you made it 7x. I mean, I've seen a lot of the Euros over here that I've given my diatribe about how I think they're so bad for the game. Euros being anyone not from the US and Canada, say that all the games in England are terrible and the rake is very high and they're sort of unbeatable. And what they say, and might be different because this game is so small, but they say there's not as many recreational players in England,
Yeah, I
nowhere
think
near as
that's
much as like in California. The reason why I bring that up is because I just wonder if you see like a lot of like ridiculous, like somebody opening the six at 1-2, which you would never see in the
yeah,
U.S.
that's the
You
thing.
know?
I've been playing here for on and off for almost 10 years. I've tried to move up to 1-3 and 2-5 a little bit,
Yeah.
but I always notice there seems a bit more professional or proper as you move up. So I think I'm like a so-so player. So I sort of
Okay. So you make
grind
it. So you make
and
it 15.
yeah, I make it 15,
Yep.
and and the button calls.
Okay.
Just the background on the button, he a bit of a luck sack that day. He's sitting on like almost 2,000.
Okay.
So I've seen him play before this things like calling pre-flop with calling raises pre-flop with like 8-4 off and then like
Okay.
runner
So he's
hitting the
so
four house
he
and
so he's going to call with a wide range. So he makes the call.
yeah. So he's like basically like a crazy Chinese student, I suppose,
Okay.
sort
So a
of.
very high V pipping. Do the limpers call too?
The big blind calls.
Okay.
So small blind folds, big blind calls, and the all the limpers fold. So it's three-handed to the
Okay.
flop.
So the limpers fold. Okay. So three ways. Pots like maybe 50. Let's go to the flop. You got King Jack of
Out
Spades.
almost 50.
Yep.
Yep. One more detail. So the big blind that called was a sort of shortish, like only 250.
Okay.
So there's like a huge guy in the button and 250 on the big blind, and I have 350. Yep.
Okay.
Flop comes like nine of spades, 10 of spades, and a red deuce.
Nine of spades, 10 of spades, deuce.
Yeah, so I have like a gut shot straight flush draw, I suppose.
Okay. Yeah. King Jack of Spades, two overs and a gut shot straight flush draw.
And a gut shot.
Yeah.
And well, I'm the first to act, right? So I bet 35.
Well, you're not the first to act, right? It's the big blinds in there, right? In the
No,
button.
no, sorry. The big blind checks, and I bet 35. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So you bet 35 into a pot of about. So Hero bets 35 into a pot of about 50. And I think that that's fine. I mean, we can get into sizing and stuff, but okay. You mean you've got a huge draw, over, flush draw, gut shot. So you
So
bet
you bet
35.
like four this kind of game, or like
Um, it probably depends on this. I would be very, very keenly watching and probably calculating in my head the stack sizes and what I want to do with a specific hand. Like if I want to barrel off here, um,
yeah. I
if
didn't really have a read on the big blind guy because I think he just got there and he was like he ordered some food and was eating like a middle aged sort of I guess professional-ish
yeah,
looking like as if he just got off work kind of type.
yeah,
So I didn't really have any particular read on him.
I
Anyway, so
I
I
think
bet
that's
35.
fine. Yeah,
Yep, the button. just calls. The
Okay, button
crazy guy just
calls. Yep.
I'm basically not giving him much credit. Maybe he's just drawing as well, or has a straight draw or something. I don't know.
He could have like a
But
nine. He could have any pair, right? He seems like the type of guy that
I
might call
and,
with any piece, right? Yep.
and so goes around back to the big blind, and check raises for 100,
He check raises for 100, so a small raise. Wow, that's crazy.
and then it's back to me now. So bear in mind he started with 250 and he called 15 and then 100, right? So he has like what, only less than 150 left, I suppose.
Yeah, I think my this is an interesting. These are always interesting scenarios here when you've got these restricted cap games where you have like a
Yep.
big draw and it appears like somebody's got a made hand, but you have some other person in the hand. Now, you feel a lot more comfortable if you had the nut draw here because you've got king jack of spades, but it sounds like the button's so wide it doesn't matter. So I
Right,
don't
right. So
think,
that's the reason why I did what I did. Well, I'll tell you later. But yeah, that's why I didn't really give Button much credit. So he was sort of like whatever for me. But what would be your move here?
well, so
Given
what I was going to say is that I would probably call here because the big blind, I don't think he's going to check raise and fold, right? And there's nothing wrong with having more money in the pot behind you from the button. Like if the big blind actually has a hand that he's not going to fold, whether that's ace 10 or two pair or whatever, you have to make your hand, right? So the
Right,
big blind, I mean, behind you is sort of irrelevant anyways because if the excuse me the button around you because you still have to beat the big blind if you get it in with him. So a lot of people would just like insta just shove and they're like, oh, I'm gonna ISO the big blind and I'm gonna get an overlay at like 50%, but you've got two overcards a gut shot in the second nut flush draw. I don't know why you wouldn't want the button to come in behind you because you still have to beat the big blind anyways. Do you follow what I'm saying? Like, I would just call.
right.
Obviously, if the guy backships behind you and then you just easily get it in with all three players, but that's what I would do. I
Okay,
would
so
call.
so so theoretically, let's say I call and the button folds. If the turn is nothing and the guy shoves, would you still call or just muck it?
If the guy behind you folds and you call and the pot is so the pot would be what 250 and he's got 150 left, so he's betting 150 into 250, so it's 400 150 to call. Let's say the turn is a brick. I think you still probably have to call. You're getting 2.5 to 1. It's probably pretty close. Spades and a gut shot would be 12 outs. It's probably really close, to be honest with you. The problem is that you don't know if he's just doing this with a 10. People do crazy shit at 1-2. Like I think I would
Especially with
call off. I think I
right.
would probably call off turn just because I think sometimes he just has a 10, and you're flipping almost
Okay,
with
so
one card to come.
if that happens, everything is going in anyway, and so but then your recommendation would be to call better than shove just to get the
Probably.
button guy to call as well,
Yeah,
or
yeah. I think I would just call here to get the button to come in behind.
all right, okay. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess well, I ended up just shoving.
Okay.
Okay, and then is shoving really bad there,
No,
or
I don't think so. I mean, it's probably very close with these stack sizes either way. I mean, I think a case could be made for shoving if you think the big blind, if there's ever a chance that the big blind is like check raising a 10 here to find out where he's at, like Jack 10 and then he's going to fold, then shoving is the best play. But
yeah,
again,
that's
like
because you said that basically the guy's most likely never folding, right? Maybe it was my mistake at the time. I thought I could get him off like some top pairs or
if
like
you think that he might check raise full, if you've seen him do that shit before where he check
8-10.
raises and then just gives up, and if you think there's fold equity, yeah, then shoving's probably the right play. To me, on paper on the surface here, it doesn't look like this scenario looks like there's any fold equity. So
Right.
if there's no fold equity, I prefer a call. If you think there's fold equity, then sure, shoving's fine.
All right, thanks. Basically, so I shoved, and the button sits there and thinks for like 2 minutes
Yeah.
and calls,
Okay.
and yeah, and puts me all in, obviously. Like
Yeah.
so, and obviously the big blind called.
hmm
So the button had an ace high flush draw.
Well, actually, the other thing too is that that's something that I didn't mention, but probably should be mentioned, just because of your characterization of the button. Another reason to shove here is if you think there's a possibility that the ace high flush draw is in the hand and you want to get it out. So if you were playing against like more standard competition where you thought there could be a lot of nut flush draws from the third guy on the button in this particular scenario, then you might want to shove. Do you see why? You obviously you want to drive the nut flush draw out because if you're up against the nut flush draw in a made hand like a set, you're really fucked. You're almost drawing dead. I mean, you've got a gut shot, but that's the worst. That's actually the first tweet that I put out ever, I think, back in 2011. If anyone wants to go to like those tweet histories, the first Crush Live Poker through Twitter tweet I think I put out was if you don't have the nut draw and you're up against a nut draw and a made hand, it's a recipe for 0% equity. Like I said, you have a little bit more
Yeah,
because
like 15% just
yeah,
because of
because you have a gut shot. But that's another reason to shove. But it seemed like from your background, the button was so wide, I wasn't really concerned about that. And he wasn't going to fold the nut flush draw anyways, right? Like he didn't. So,
yeah. Well, I guess it was like
yeah,
it played itself sort of. But anyway, so the guy had a nut flush draw, and the
yeah,
big blind had like bottom set.
bottom set deuces. Okay, that makes sense. So you're screwed.
But anyway, well, yeah, well,
Yeah.
I rivered the, so I won everything. But
Oh, really? What, you got a queen?
yeah, so I
Wow.
almost tripled up with the worst hand, but I was just calling in just to get your idea on like what I could have done better, I suppose.
Yeah, no,
So maybe
I think it's fine. I just think that the way to think about this is uh two reasons to shove here, right? You want to get fold equity from somebody who's check raising, which normally there is not much fold equity with these stacks, if any. And then the other second reason that we touched on in the end is that you sometimes actually want to raise all in to get the nut flush draw out. Hey guys, if you like what you've seen here, please click on the subscribe button and you'll get notified every time we put up a new video. And if you want to check out crushlivepoker.com for the first month free, use the code YTA100. Click on the link right there.